Donald Trump traveled to Iowa this past weekend, and it was weird, to say the least, but it was also so confusing and chaotic that a former member of his administration actually described her reaction to it as being, quote, stunned. Not stunned necessarily by the things that he said. Obviously, Trump says, outlandish and outrageous things all the time. She was stunned by the fact that it is very obvious at this point that Donald Trump is suffering from quite severe, possibly, cognitive decline. Now, that former official happens to be Alyssa Farah Griffin, who, of course, has become an outspoken critic of Donald Trump since leaving his administration. She now works for CNN. But this is what she had to say during an appearance on CNN on Sunday morning. This was, of course, after they showed a clip of Donald Trump. Farah Griffin says, quote, "It's kind of remarkable. I've been watching the clips from Trump's visit to Iowa, and I'm stunned, having spent a lot of time with him in 2020 and years before. He's slowing down. There's a lack of sharpness in what he's saying and a lack of kind of clarity. There's a clip, where he basically says he's going to overturn Obamacare, but also says that he'll fix it. Complete inconsistencies." Now, if you've been paying attention to what happened with Donald Trump's rally in Iowa over the weekend, that certainly was not the most outrageous thing that he said, and definitely was not the only thing he said that hints at severe cognitive decline. That just happens to be one of the things Alyssa Farah Griffin highlighted there. So he's like, I'm going to get rid of Obamacare, and then in the next breath he says, I'm going to fix Obamacare. Okay, definitely inconsistent. You cannot do both of those things. So yeah, there's a weirdness there. But she talks about a lack of clarity. Let's be honest about something here. There's never been clarity or an ability to really follow his train of thought ever since he burst onto the political scene. Like, the man gets distracted with his own words and sentences and goes down these weird paths that nobody can follow. So let's not even pretend for a second that Donald Trump, even just a couple years ago, oh wow, yeah, you could follow everything he said. This the guy who would rant and rave about toilets and having to flush them 15 to 20 times, and there's no water pressure anymore. Those are weird things that he said while he was president that really show that he never had clarity in anything that he said. But as I pointed out, that really wasn't the most outrageous thing he said. He went on to say that if it hadn't been for rigging of elections, he totally would have won blue states like California and New York in both 2020 and apparently 2016, and maybe even in elections before that. But don't worry, because he says, in the off chance that Jesus Christ himself comes down and acts as the, scorekeeper, which is the word he used, then they'll totally win in 2024 in the blue states. You think I'm making that up? Here's his exact quote. I actually believe that if they didn't have rigged elections out there, if they didn't have all that paper ballot, they send out like 36 million ballots and nobody knows where the hell they're going to or coming from. I think a few people know where they're going to and a few people know where they're coming from. So again, nobody knows, except I think a couple people know. That's the dumbest thing. They know where the ballots go. They know who they're coming from. They have systems to verify and check all of these, by the way. But he continues. But I think if you had a real election and Jesus came down and God came down and said, I'm going to be the scorekeeper here, I think we would win there. I think we would win in Illinois. I think we would win in New York, which is all places that, in theory, I think you can win New York. I think you can win New Jersey. I think we can win Virginia. States that, in theory, would be with us. Okay? Kind of hard to follow his train of thought there. But yeah, my mistake. It's not just Jesus, okay? You got to have both Jesus and God, coming down with that goal line defense there to make sure the election's not rigged. So I appreciate Alyssa Farah Griffin saying she was stunned by Donald Trump's mental decline. But if you really wanted to highlight his mental decline, you definitely picked the wrong clip, because I would have gone with Jesus coming down to make Donald Trump win New York and California as possibly the craziest things that he said this past Saturday.